Pulse Remembrance in 2022.
Some flowers, they're all over the place.
It's my sincere pleasure to introduce Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer this evening. Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer helped our community unite and heal following the Pulse tragedy, and valued Orlando would not be defined by one hateful act, but instead by responding with love and compassion. That unity was on display in the hours, weeks, and months after the tragedy, when residents waited hours to donate blood, and later at vigils and memorials as millions of dollars were raised to support the victims' families and survivors through the One Orlando Fund. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Buddy Dyer. Thank you, Earl. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be with you this evening. Sean, welcome. Greg. The audience comes up to just the right thing. So tonight is all about honoring the 49 angels that were taken too soon, recognizing the resilience of the survivors and the victims' families, and showing our appreciation to the first responders and the medical staff that responded that evening. It's also a day to showcase our community's unity. 6 years ago today, our community experienced the worst day a community could experience. And I've had an opportunity since then to study the way communities respond. And usually to an event of that sort, they respond with either fear or hatred. Fear of the unknown and hatred of whoever committed the act. But I'm so proud of our community because we didn't respond with either one of those emotions. We responded differently. We responded with love, we responded with compassion, and yes, we responded with unity. And as Earl said, in the days, weeks, and months after the Pulse tragedy, you could see that unity. The first day with people lined 3 times around blood banks to give blood, or bring food and water to first responders and to people that were still working out on Orange Avenue. More than 50,000 of us gathered at Lake Eola 1 week later, and so many people supported the One Orlando Fund, $30 million to the victims' families and to the survivors. We showed the world we were Orlando United, and we are Orlando United. And it wasn't a slogan, it's real. You feel it, it's real. And 6 years later, I think Orlando United has become a true part of our community. Thanks to the partnerships in our community, we've come together to provide culturally competent support to those who were directly impacted by the tragedy. And our unity has allowed us to confront challenges, like how we protected each other during COVID. I'm proud of our community and how we responded to that as well, heeding the medical advice. And because of our unity, we've been able to take a stand against dangerous political rhetoric, hateful policies, hateful legislation, hateful vetoes in the last week, and limiting our civil rights. And that happens in Tallahassee every time the legislature comes together. Those target our same communities disproportionately impacted by the Pulse tragedy, our LGBTQ plus community, our Latinx community, our Black community, and other communities of color. And that's why it's critical that we remain united and continue to grow. And it's why it's important that we reaffirm the commitment to making Orlando a welcoming place for every single individual that wants to come and live here. To the survivors and the victims' families, we are united in our support for you and will remain united to ensure that hate will never win. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Amanda Brown and I am a Pulse survivor. I am also a recipient of a 49 Legacy Scholarship in the inaugural class. I am a daughter, a sister, a wife, and a mother of 2 children. Like many other survivors, I fought to live in that journey towards healing. It's different from all of us. For me, I knew that I had to survive to make it back to my family. I was shot 4 times on the morning of June 12th, 6 years ago today. I knew that my healing process was going to be challenging and extensive. I spent a month in the hospital and a year in physical therapy to learn how to walk and use my right arm again. It took months in counseling to improve my mental health, which I am still in the healing process as I stand before you today. For almost a year after the shooting, I didn't want to go anywhere or see anybody. But my mom and my family told me, you can't live a life in fear. It made me realize that if I stayed inside all of the time, afraid, then it was like I hadn't truly survived at all. 2 of the biggest lessons that I have learned from my experience are, you can't live in fear, and you can't take life for granted. My family will also tell you that I have always had a competitive spirit. I tried to never give up in all parts of my life. Never was the spirit tested so much than through this experience. Here's the interesting part though. The tragedy that changed my life also pushed me into my life passion. I knew that I wanted to save people like the paramedics and EMTs who saved me. I intended to keep that promise. I want to put a light at the end of that tunnel. This was my dream, and I kept reminding myself through these life challenges that I had already survived the hardest part. I have worked as a nurse technician for 16 years, and am now an EMT, a graduate of Tampa Fire Rescue Training. And all by working long days, I was able to attend paramedic school because of my scholarship from Pulse Foundation. Was a fire science scholarship in honor of Corey James Cannell, who was an inspired firefighter. I am exactly proud to continue Corey's legacy. I am here tonight because I want to make sure that we continue to honor the 49 angels, and to their families I say, their lives matter, and their stories need to continue to be told. I send you all much love and prayers for comfort and peace. I also want to honor my fellow survivors. All of us are experiencing different long life journeys toward our healing. I hope that we can all have the capacity to recover from difficulties, confidence in ourselves, and our ability, strength to overcome any obstacles that we face both mentally and physically, in connection with others to help us get through this journey. Please remember that we are never alone. I want to honor the first responders and trauma teams. Thank you for dedicating your lives daily to help others. Thank you for your spirit of selflessness and your service and sacrifice to keep our community safe. And finally, I want to thank my mom, Elaine, my dad, Raymond, my brother, Philip, my wife, Jasmine, and our 2 children, Alejandro and Alexia, and my dear friends for reminding me to never give up. I am grateful for you, and I love you. To our beautiful angels and my dear friend, Cece, we love you and miss you. Keep on dancing. Thank you.
My name is Barbara Coma. I'm the owner of the nightclub and founder of the Pulse Foundation. We are here tonight to honor the 49 angels and their families and pay tribute to the survivors, the brave first responders, and everyone impacted by the Pulse tragedy. Pulse Nightclub, which was established in 2004, was embraced by the global LGBTQ+IA community with the club's culture of love, providing a safe space where everyone can be themselves and be proud to bring their families. The story of Pulse is the story of all of us. A diverse community drawn to an exuberant gay club in Orlando. It was family, home, joy, belonging, and so much more. It was friendship, compassion, bravery, and love. It was a place where you could just be see yourself and no one will judge you. We wanted everyone to see themselves represented in there and everything we did. It's the story of how each of us is shaped by experiences of belonging, of being part of this family, a community, a group that had real meaning to us. It's the story of celebrating our shared humanity instead of focusing on our differences. It is the story of how each of us navigates the opportunities and the obstacles, the defeats and the victories that shape a lifelong journey of becoming our fullest selves. A single human story, one shared pulse with 8 billion individual variations. Pulse is also the story of a violent attack that left everyone changed forever. It is the largest loss of life in a terrorist attack on American soil since 9/11. It was the largest attack in the LGBTQ+ community in history. 47 of the 49 people were killed people of color. They were gay, they were straight, they were Latin, they were black, and they were white. They were mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, daughters, and sons. It is a trauma that has resonated around the world. And trauma splits our country into factions. Again and again we see it. You see how divided we are today. The polarization has split families and friendships in our community. It has stifled conversations, and some people have seemed to forget that old adage that we can agree to disagree and still respect one another. We all have to do our part to find a way back to the middle, to civil conversation. It is okay to disagree, but it is not okay to hurt each other and destroy lives. After the Pulse tragedy, Orlando made a different choice, and the world joined us. Orlando chose love. Orlando chose hope. Orlando chose acceptance. Orlando chose courage. Orlando chose strength. And above all, Orlando chose unity. These 6 words came from you, from our community, when you were asked how you want to feel when we were here at this memorial. Orlando chose to honor the victims, survivors, and first responders by celebrating love and life. I want to recognize and thank the countless members of organizations and individuals who came together in remembrance and unity. Tonight and every day, I'm also reminded of the global response of unity seen in the weeks and months that followed the tragedy. It's a tribute to the ideals of our community and the one Pulse hold dear. But our work is far from over. This year, mass shootings and attacks on disenfranchised communities continue all too often in our neighborhoods and around the nation. These senseless acts of violence that cause communities to experience trauma and devastation must end. We often hear people say, I can't make a difference. I don't know what to do to create change. It all seems so hopeless. I don't even know where to start. But we are here to say this very clearly and very purposefully tonight. The potential for transformation is in each of us. We must ask ourselves this question: who do we as individuals and a society want to become? We can widen a circle of belonging so no one feels othered or less valued and less respected. We can seek out and welcome and connect to others we notice are struggling to find a place to belong. Sometimes it is those who feel alone, abandoned, misunderstood, and different who are preyed upon into finding connections to hate groups. Together, we can create this change with individuals and groups and entire communities. We can keep choosing love over hate and change hearts and minds. Together we are stronger. This is the power of unity. We are all connected to one another. We are all one Pulse. Thank you.
I'd also like to recognize that we have Orange County City Commissioner Bakari Bernstein. Thank you. When Chasta Buttigieg came out to his family and friends as a teenager in northern Michigan, he was convinced the only option was running away. While couch surfing for housing and working multiple jobs, he pushed through community college, finding strengthened friendships along with a renewed relationship with his parents, who demonstrated that people who love you most can grow alongside you. He went on to graduate from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and he holds a master's degree in education from DePaul University. During the 2020 presidential election, he became well known as an outspoken advocate for arts education, mental health, and LGBTQ rights. He's a former middle school teacher, a New York Times best-selling author, and most recently, a father to 2 infant twins, Joseph and Penelope. He lives in Washington, D.C. and Michigan with his husband, Pete. Please join me in welcoming Chasten Buttigieg.
Thank you for inviting me into your community and allowing me to honor the lives of your friends and family with you this evening. What an honor it is to be with you, truly. I must be honest, when I was invited to speak this evening, I immediately said yes because I have held you and your community so close to my heart for the last 6 years. And then I started sitting at the computer trying to find the words to say to you. And for weeks, I stared at a blank cursor. I may have felt that way because even 6 years later, no words can match the enormity of your loss or the meaning of what happened at Pulse. But maybe trying to find the perfect words to match what happened is besides the point. Maybe the point, or part of the point, is the community that now exists in honor of those lives who were taken, and the work of that community to continue in a struggle that we are being reminded again and again will be the struggle of a lifetime. 6 years ago, I didn't know your names. I didn't know your stories. And yet today, I can tell you I have carried you with me every day. I have cried for you, I have grieved for you, I have prayed for you. I have never forgotten you. But what do you say to the families who have suffered unthinkable loss? What do you say to the friends whose worlds were torn apart as their best friends were ripped from them on a dance floor? And what do you say in this moment in our nation when too many of the people we depend on to lead with love and compassion and wisdom and judgment continue instead to divide rather than deliver? Continue to single out the vulnerable in order to gain power. The loss you have incurred is unfathomable, and the frustration and anger you must feel as our community continues to let us down, as our country continues to let us down over and over and over again on gun violence is shared. And yet there is no denying the amazing and positive things that have also happened in the years since that terrible night, including the incredible community that you have created, a kind of family. A family that I have been blessed to have met throughout the last few years, a family that has inspired other families across this country. Even though we all don't know one another, and for many of us this evening is our first time meeting, I do feel as if we have known one another for some time. Because when you belong to the LGBTQ community, or you are an ally of the community, you know a thing or two about the term chosen family. And you know how important that term is to those who found their family at places like Pulse. Even for our allies, who are also among those taken from us that night, the sense of community and love and belonging found within spaces like Pulse were the foundation and the reinforcement of meaningful, lifelong friendships. For some in the LGBTQ community, it is not uncommon to walk away from the only community that you have ever known, or even from family, simply because you were made to feel you didn't belong there. And maybe not only were you made to feel that something about you was wrong, but sometimes you were made to feel that you weren't even worthy of love, or acceptance, or community. That is certainly how I felt when I ran away from home after coming out the summer I graduated high school. And we have not yet reached that day when that story is no longer common. The LGBTQ community has and continues to be shunned, ostracized, blamed, harassed, and scapegoated. And I know you don't have to look too far in Florida for examples. Sometimes those we love in this community are forced to flee the only stability they have ever known simply because there is no other option. And sometimes, as we know, they don't even get a chance to see the world on the other side of those struggles. For many of us who made that trip into the unknown, every moment that follows feels like a jigsaw puzzle. Each day is full of rough edges and mismatched pieces as you try to put yourself back together. You see, when you grow up being taught that something about you is inherently wrong, you start to question everything about yourself. And when you finally get away from what made you run, if you get away from what made you run, you look in the mirror and you start to wonder which parts of you are real and which ones you created just to satisfy the world around you. And after we ran, we sought out spaces and community that made us feel whole, made us feel free, made us feel, even if only for a few hours, that the ground we danced on and the air that we breathed was created for us and only us. We came alive within spaces like Pulse. We made friends, found family, and danced until pain was numb and the memories of a past life were pushed to the back of our minds. Sometimes the sense of self we built in spaces like Pulse was so powerful that it gave us ways to return to our original communities or families on new terms, like mine. For others, spaces like Pulse introduced us to strangers who accepted us so completely that we had a sense of family the moment we stepped in. Gay, straight, trans, no matter your identity. What made the loss at Pulse so visceral for so many of us, even those of us who did not have the fortune of knowing the 49 lives who were taken that night, was that so many of us found our families, our best friends, and sometimes even our lives again, because of the space that was created on similar dance floors. And now as we reflect on 6 years, we ask ourselves, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? We made a commitment 6 years ago to honor their lives with action. But what do you do when so many in countless cities across the country refuse to lift a finger? What do you do? What do you do when hope feels lost? When you're frozen in questions? Well, look around you. Go ahead, look around you right now. You may see faces of those you've known for years, or people you haven't yet met. Family members who loved their children completely. Co-workers whose lives were brightened for the better because of the angel that they knew. This isn't just a crowd full of people. It's a community. It is a family. It is a symbol of love and acceptance. It is light in the darkness. And it is making the world a better place, even if all the sharp and painful broken things aren't going to be fixed overnight.
Good to see you. You look great.
And we are here to keep this family, this community, and build it. That's work. It's good work. And there's a lot of that work ahead of us. I know that work can feel heavy, but this community will not let you carry it alone. And then there's the work we will all go back out of this place and do, one at a time as individuals. And the question is, will we do it differently because we came here today? we all have to figure out what it means to live up to the spirit of this community, the amazing community of survivors we honor today, and the wider community of your supporters and allies that I am proud to be a part of. And to me, at least, a big part of doing that work is to live your life to the fullest extent possible, as your fearless, beautiful, unique, and full self. I refuse to shy away from my pride as a gay man, a loving husband, a father, and as a vocal ally to those in our wider LGBTQ+ community whose experiences and realities are much different than mine. Knowing what it took for each of the people at Pulse that night to be who they were, to find their whole selves, it seems to me that any of us can honor them by showing up each day as our own complete selves, ready to love and give and push forward when those around us would seek to push us backward. And reach out and pull up those who feel they can't make it alone. One at a time, out in the world, we can make every place we walk into the kind of place that builds community, builds family. And whenever we come together, like we are right now, we get to see what the spirit of that family and that community looks like. So, let's honor them by creating the world that was sought within the walls of Pulse, within whatever walls each of us works and lives in. Make every space you occupy full of love and life and spirit of togetherness that those who danced on this floor sought out. I promise to do that with you any way I know how. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Patience Murray, and a Pulse survivor to champion. Despite the horror I experienced that night, being shot twice and held hostage for 3 hours, still having a metal rod in my leg to this day, I don't consider myself a victim, because that implies I'm still broken. I am not a survivor. That implies I'm barely getting by the best I can. I'm a champion, because I faced extreme challenges and succeeded. All of us here today are champions, including the family of Akira Murray, who's being led by her parents, Natalie and Albert Murray. All of us here today are champions, and I'm humbled to be here this evening to introduce the reading of the names. And honestly, before I get into it, I know how hard it is to fight back from a dark, dark place. And the only road to resilience, I'm telling you, is practicing gratitude. And even though it may be hard on a day like today to find light and see the good in it, I'm telling you, if you want your mental health, if you want your spiritual health, if you want to have any hope at life at all, you have to force yourself to see the good and then force yourself to be the good in this world. And I also want to thank the following family members and representatives for taking part in this important moment of reflection and remembrance. Brian Alvier, Diana Ayala, Mariana Bebe, Damaris Benitez, Carmen Capo, Miriam Velasquez, Andrea Drayton, Rosetta Evans, Alvin Mendez, Edwin Perez, Evelyn Rivera, Ciscali and Noelia Santiago Leon, Kimberly Vilma, and Maria J. Wright. And now, the reading of the 49 names.
Gilberto Silva Menéndez, Joel Rayon Paniagua, and my brother Luis Sergio Viedma.
Oscar Ambioris Aracena Montero, Simón Adrián Carillo Fernández y mi cuñado Rodolfo Ayala Ayala.
Frank Hernandez, Javier Jorge Reyes, Christopher Joseph Sanfeliz, and my beloved stepson, Stanley Almodovar III, known as Stanley.
Paul Terrell Henry, Tevin Eugene Crosby, and my son Antonio Devon Brown.
Miguel Ángel Honorato, Geraldo Antonio Ortiz Jiménez, and my nephew Eric Iván Ortiz Rivera.
Mercedes Marisol Flores, Ilmari Rodríguez Soyán, Leroy Valentín Fernández, and my beloved sister Amanda Lisette Aldear.
Enrique L. Ríos Jr., Eddie Sotomayor Jr. y mi hermano Martín Benítez Torres.
Alejandro Barrios Martínez, Anthony Luis Laureano Dísela, Francisina Jesús Velázquez, es
Corey James Connell, Eddie Jamal Joy Justice, Jarrell Roman Burt II, and my brother Jason Benjamin Josephat.
Akira Monet Moray, Kimberly Jean Morris, Shay Evan Tomlinson, and my daughter Bianca Dee Drayton.
Brenda Marquez McCool, Juan Charles Martínez, Javier Emanuel Serrano Rosado, my son Jerry Brown.
Peter Omi González Cruz, Giancarlo Nieves Rodríguez, mi hijo, mi estrella Luis Omar Ocasio Capó.
Ángel Candelario Padrón, Luis Daniel Conde, Juan Pablo Rivera Velázquez,
Y mi primo
y querido sobrino Luis Daniel Wilson León. Dani. Te queremos mucho. Love you. I miss you, Dani.
Jonathan Camuy Vegas, Christopher Andrew Leindoni, Juan Ramón Guerrero y mi hermano querido Giancarlo Méndez Pérez. Como los tiempos han cambiado, la gente sin corazón, el mundo está destrozado.
This ceremony ended and it's very emotional.
El odio y la depresión, hay que unirnos más, que haya más